Welcome to Military Wife, Life and Strife, the podcast where we get open and honest about all the struggles of military life. And welcome to the community that has your back no matter what. Come get real about the strife with me, your host, a military wife. My name is Heather, and today I want to get real with Adam Jones. We are inviting Adam onto the podcast. I'm going to interview him about his book, Weapons of Mass Deception, along with a lot of other things he's got going in his life right now and the things he's doing with work from his book. It's very cool. This is my copy of Weapons of Mass Deception. So I'm going to read you the back so you can hear a little bit of what it's about. Is it possible that what you've been suppressing in your heart has been spreading into your home? Does it seem like no matter what you do, it's never enough? Are you maxed out, exhausted, and drifting through life? You're not alone. Adam F. Jones, former U.S. Army captain and UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter pilot, provides you with a proven plan of attack to defeat darkness and deploy freedom. In Weapons of Mass Deception, you'll learn how to detect the 4 weapons cleverly concealed in your ambition. Defeat the chronic stress and anxiety using military tactics. Restore the heart of your home with a proven process. Unlock your greatest level of confidence and clarity. Break destructive patterns and beliefs. Operate with a sense of transformational peace and power. Weapons of Mass Deception delivers a much-needed message of hope and restoration for high-performing leaders and their families. Regain what has been lost. Recover what has been stolen, and restore what has been broken as you begin to defeat the weapons of mass deception that threaten you and those you lead. What weapon will you defeat today? Now, Adam is a friend of my husband and I's that we've known for years. Him and his wife are phenomenal humans, and I'm so excited for the chance to interview him about the book and the work he's doing. I cannot wait for you guys to hear from him. Let's welcome him on. Adam, welcome to Military Wife, Life and Strife. I am really excited about properly interviewing you and talking to you about many different things. I've already told Adam that we need to have multiple episodes with him on because there's so much that I want to hear from him and I want to ask him about. But first of all, I wanted to explain how we know each other because we've known each other a while. It was through my husband at flight school. He and Adam were in the same class, sometimes in the same helicopter together. And that was what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, pretty wild.
10 years, yes. So explain a little bit about your background as well. How are you connected to the military? I just kind
Yeah,
of explained a little, but go ahead. How are you connected?
no, I think that's great. I went through Penn State Army ROTC, commissioned, went to flight school eventually after that, and then did about 10 years in the Army National Guard and 7 years of those on active orders, working with aviation. I got out as a captain and loved my time in the military. It was kind of what I always wanted to do. When I was like a little, you probably say like a little tyke or something, like a little
Yeah.
kiddo. Man, I wanted to be a Black Hawk pilot. I always knew that. So I just kind of kept keeping things focused and staying streamlined to eventually get there one day. I had a lot of no's along the way, and I didn't come from that kind of life. Like my parents were not college educated or anything like that. I didn't have this kind of overly ambitious family that I thought
Mm-hmm.
would instill that into me. I just was so driven that I knew it needed to happen. But I think a little bit of my story
Yeah.
is I kind of got a little addicted to that achievement, thinking that maybe that would fill me one day. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's military background, and I'm glad I did it.
And it's a little similar to my husband because he also got a lot of no's. And both of you kind of started in flight school a little later in years. You were not that old, but you were considered like the old guys of the class.
That's
I remember
true.
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the first lieutenants with a bunch of second lieutenants. Yep. Yep, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Um, so I know you're out of the military now, but looking back on either your time in the military or military in general, what has been your favorite thing about the military? Because we like to keep things positive here at Military Wife Life Strife. And then we'll get into the strife.
Yeah, totally. So, I thought about it when you said that that was something we might chat about. To me, I mean, I'll never forget the way we used to fly. I mean, it was so much fun. I'll never do that again. I'm not going to fly 15, 20 feet off the ground, flying what's called nap of the earth, where you're hugging, hugging the earth, right? And following its contours and jumping over, uh, you know, early on, but jumping over like cattle and stuff like that and flying close to the trees and doing the hoist missions. I mean, it was so much fun. But I will say what's interesting is I don't think I allowed it to be as much fun as it really was. I was always afraid of like getting it perfect and right. Now that I look back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have just enjoyed all of that. Still do your best, but like be there as well.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And then 100% the people, I mean, there's just really dedicated team members that you get to work alongside of. When I finished in the Army, I was a company commander for aircraft maintenance. And I just built a lot of really strong relationships that to this day we now work together. I didn't know this would happen, but after my book came out and they read it and they said this is 100% accurate, which that was kind of nice to be validated on that end. Even the
Yeah.
people who knew, like I don't know if I shared this with you, but like there were people who said I knew I was supposed to pray for you and I didn't know why. And we'd never
Wow.
talked about that or anything back then. You know what I mean? Like these were
Yeah.
just people in passing, people I'd have conversations with maybe every month or so. They weren't people I was with every single day. And now there's certain people that I am just with nonstop in the world of my company, Kingdom Operatives, and the work we do. It's wild, right? Like you wouldn't have guessed that, but those bonds were formed at such an early time. So I'm really
Yeah.
thankful for that.
And there's something to say about like the friendships you form and the bonds you form when you're in the strife together. You go through hard things in the military together. And yeah, that's very cool that you can see a very different side of the relationship now that you're out and now that you're um like your purpose is very different. The mission you're doing is a little different than what you were doing in the military. Um but okay, tell me about the book. I know I read it. I loved it. I can tell that like you were supposed to write this book. This was very much like a God-given mission for you. It's written so well and organized so like eloquently, like the way everything flows together. It's so good. So tell me a little bit, what's your elevator pitch for your book? How do you describe it to people?
Oh wow, you asked the perfect question. Well, thank you first of all for how much you've supported it, and even just now, what you just said is just incredible. There's so much to unpack with this book and how it came to life. It's kind of wild, right? You think about it. This thing was in your head, right? It was really in your heart. And then it gets into your head and you start to process it. And then eventually it gets into a book form that can outlive, me, that can go further than my voice. I think that is so cool, that the fact that I
Yeah.
am limited, right? Like I think we have to accept our limitations. There's a lot of things we can and can't do. And I can't be everywhere at all times. I've tried, it doesn't work, right? But this book can, like, that's what's so wild is like, I'm constantly now getting feedback day by day from people I have never even met who are in some referral chain of someone else who said, you need to read this. And,
Yeah.
my wife and I, Jess, like, what people come up to us in tears that we've never met before at an event who said, I
Wow.
read your book before you showed up, and it helped me understand my husband so much more now. Or it helped me understand me. Or this one person told me it helped me understand this is kind of sad, right? But he said, it helped me understand why my dad was so angry all the time. He
Wow.
never could explain it to me, but after reading your book, I get it now. And I said,
Yeah.
well, how are you and your dad? And he said, well, we were real. He ended up being really healed. He really processed all of it. And, I lost him recently, years. And this is helping me connect to him again in a new way. So it's just incredible. And I know probably for the listener on this podcast, you're thinking, wait, what? we're jumping in so fast. What are we talking about
Yeah.
here? So, my book's called Weapons of Mass Deception: The Silent Struggle Within Every High Performer. And I did feel that it needed to be written because I didn't feel we had enough examples that were just kind of raw and real about people's struggle, especially from those with like maybe more of a military persona. They tend to be more heroic, messages and all the great things we did. But for me, I had a lot of shame and regret, and I needed to. I didn't need to. Let's put it this way. I needed to process it, so I needed to get it out there, but I wasn't willing to do it only for me, if that makes sense. Because like I
Yeah.
would have just stopped writing this multiple times. I really believe that this is something that's missing that we need to get out into the world, and hopefully it would, even though I limit it through my experiences. Maybe the message was powerful enough to where it would kind of pull itself along. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yes, yeah. And like I said, it's also not just for military, right? Like you wrote it in a way that I feel like it applies to a lot of very mission-centric jobs. And once people don't have that mission anymore, once they get out or once they move on to something else, there's that kind of loss of purpose. And
Yeah.
so it's really anyone in that type of field, but obviously because we're in the military, it relates to us, it relates to friends. Literally every person that I meet that's getting out the military or thinking about getting out the military, I send them the link to your book because I know you're right. It is a really important message that I think people need to hear. And you tell it in such a way, like being vulnerable with your stories and everything. It's just so well written that I think, yeah, a lot of people obviously are relating to it, which is awesome. That's amazing that you guys are getting to hear a lot of really good feedback from, sounds like a lot of different perspectives. Um, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the feedback you're getting from military spouses? You mentioned one of them saying how like I understand my husband so much more.
Yeah, this one person came up to us at a fitness event um, where I wasn't focused on this book. It was just more about encouraging the community because you know me, like I love to inspire and encourage others. So
Mhm.
that was always going to happen. This book and the message that is, I think that's like you said. I mean, I really feel that it was more led by God in terms of what needed to come out, not so much what I wanted, right? Like I don't want
Mhm.
to write this book. We can talk about that a little bit. But when this one spouse came up to me, and Jess, she had her husband with her, and he was really closed off and his arms were kind of up like this, and he was turned the other way, like we're over here, he's kind of like this, and she like brings him over, and she said, I just want to thank you so much for writing what you did, because he has not been able to talk to me about any of this for 7 years, and
Wow.
I feel like I understand him more now, and I just want him to read this too, but he hasn't yet. And so I went up to him and I was like, "Hey man," I said, "So, tell me about your background." And he was really stoic, really kind
Yeah.
of quick and stern. And he just went, I'll try to remember, but it was like, Marines. And I'm like, "Oh, cool. So you're in the Marines. What'd you do?" "Mechanic." I'm like, "Nice. That's awesome." Like not a lot of words coming from me, my friend,
Yeah.
And part of me hurts so much in those situations because I'm like, dude, your life's not over yet, bro. Like, I don't know if you
Yeah.
get that. You're not only a Marine. And if you only think of yourself as a Marine, you're only going to connect to that past, and you're not going to be able to be present right now. And you're not going to be able to demonstrate really who you are fully in this world, right? Like there's so many more dimensions to who you are that you don't even
Hmm.
know. Like that's my heart. That's what I'm hearing when I see this kind of breakdown of someone only being able to express one lane of their life. He
Yeah.
was like, it was incredible. It was the best, and I'm thinking, but it's over, bro. Like it's over. And your wife's right here. And like, there's a reason she's so stressed out. So anyways, so, there's that. And then with the one base that we're going to do an event for, getting feedback from the spouses there, that was incredible too. Like similar stories, right?
Yes.
It's I understand. Like that's the thing. This is about understanding the root cause of someone's struggle that would probably connect to a high performer, mission-minded type of identity. If you have
Mm-hmm.
those two pieces, like you're that high achiever, high performer, you're mission-minded, there's a reason you feel like it's never enough. There's a reason you feel like you're constantly juggling so many things and you're not present and you're overthinking, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a reason you beat yourself up more than everyone else does. And that's what this book is about. That's who it's for. It's for the people who honestly, sadly, we're hearing are the ones who are taking their lives that no one
Yeah.
ever saw it coming. I was updated on 4 suicides in the past couple months through one of the organizations we're working with in the military.
Wow.
All four, no one saw it coming. That was the report for all four. One was about to get married, one was about to be promoted, one was moving to special forces, and then the other one was the suicide prevention trainer. And they're like, this
Wow.
doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
no, no, I get them. I really do, because they are the ones who will just keep piling it on themselves until one day they can't do it anymore and they'll break,
Yeah.
right? They're the ones who won't speak up because they're willing to just keep adding more. And that's why I talk about what I do, and that's why we're working on getting that book out more.
Yeah. Like I said, important work. And something I was thinking of as you were saying that, like that's something I talk about a lot is the people who take their own life. Like you don't see it coming because you're right. They're just thinking they need to hold it all themselves, and that gets so heavy. And I feel like the reason your book resonates so much is because you're very open and vulnerable in your book. And it when people hear those stories, it makes them feel less alone. And that is huge. A lot of these people that are holding on to all these burdens feel so alone. And that is something that you're doing good work helping them feel less alone, and also like creating these communities where they can they can feel like there's people that relate to them, there's people that they can actually connect with, and yeah, not feel so alone.
Well,
um
if I could throw a piece in here,
yeah.
because like you're hitting on it perfect. How am I able to talk about all my cracks in my armor, right? How like who does that? That's not easy.
Yeah,
It's definitely not.
it's
But there's
not
kind
at
of
all. Yeah.
Right, but there's kind of like two things, right? The first thing is this concept that I learned in the business world, which is I would find myself always being so afraid to, network or have a conversation with someone. I also saw the same thing in the military when I had to do a hard thing, that whenever I thought of myself, I would shrink back, I'd get weaker. I'd hunch my shoulders over. I would change the tone of my voice. I wouldn't represent
Mhm.
myself with confidence, right? Because I was only thinking about what do you see when you look at
Yeah.
me? I'm not worried about that at all when you and I are talking right now, right? Because I'm not here to be seen. Wow, this is powerful. I'm here to help others be seen and to be
Hmm.
understood, right? I already know who I am, and I already am seen and accepted by myself and God and all these pieces. So there's nothing here that's about a focus on me. So instead, what I teach,
Yeah.
and I know you're a big Star Wars fan, right? Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
I think it was Qui-Gon Jinn who said, "Your focus determines your reality." Right? If I focus on myself, all those things are
Yes.
going to happen. But if I shift my focus, right? Because I believe fear falls when we focus on others. If I shift
Hmm.
my focus and I think I have to tell these elements of my story because I'm focused on others and them going, me too. Wow, you said what I haven't been able to say. Maybe
Hmm.
instead of me having to say it all, because that sounds hard still, maybe I can just point someone to a page of your book, right? So that's kind of the first thing. That's the main reason this was all written was if I can put it into a book, someone could turn the page, someone who doesn't communicate, like I have the gift of communication, right?
Hmm.
Um, not everyone does, and most people don't, especially in the military, right? It's a hard area.
Yeah.
So let's open up the book, point to it, and then let's interact.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that. And then the second thing is I'm not defined by those by the gaps in my story. So why not share them? Because my life is still going forward.
That's awesome. That's powerful. And I feel like that's a message I've been hearing a lot recently is I don't know if you've heard of I know you've heard of Mel Robbins. Have you heard her theory of the let them theory?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. A little bit. Go ahead. You can explain it to me a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just was listening to a podcast the other day where she was explaining the let them theory, and it's so powerful. And it's basically saying like people, yeah, we're so concerned about what other people think, but we just need to say let them. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
they think. Like
Yeah.
whatever people what you think people are saying about you, let them. That person that cut you off in traffic, let them. Like all the little things that could bother us, let them. And she explains it much better. But yeah, it reminds me of that. And I feel like that's a message that is also really important that people need to realize like it's sometimes your story needs to be shared and it doesn't matter as much as you think what others think about you. And but you're right. It's hard. It's hard to just kind of let that go. Um, but I might have to link Mel Robbins'
Yeah.
video in here where she explains that let them theory much better than I can. Um, but okay, I want to ask a little bit more about the book. What was it that prompted you to write this book? And it, is it something that you had always wanted to do? Like, had you thought about writing a book for a while?
Do you want the real answer or
Yeah, yeah.
or do you want like the author answer that you give when you're up on a stage?
We can get real
Wow.
here.
The real answer is so weird if you're ready for this.
Okay.
I was at a state of like ultimate peace in my marriage, which by the way, if you read the book, I was not, we were in a
Hmm.
terrible spot. Then there's this place of just peace through a lot of the things I talk about, right? I give like a formula. I don't really like the word formula. It's more like a framework that you can follow. I don't think there's a perfect formula. I think you find the areas that work for you, but
Hmm.
at the end of everything, I talk about deploying counterattacks against the weapons of mass deception, right? Little
Hmm.
tactics that you can put in place to start to change the trajectory of your life. And I did all these things, right? There's nothing in here that I'm saying that I either didn't struggle with or didn't do. Um, so I get to this great place of life and I'm in the pool. That's what I'm saying. I don't think you know this. I'm in a pool and uh, Addie and Jess are inside, like it's like a family barbecue, and everyone else is just kind of leaving me alone. Like I'm just in the pool by myself, and I'm just like, I get on a pool raft, and I just lay back, and I just close my eyes and just kind of like float, and all of a sudden I felt this impression in my heart that, oh my gosh, I am supposed to write a book about what I just went through. This
Wow.
wow, oh my gosh, this is supposed to actually become a book that can help others because I am so thankful for the life I have now and I don't want to leave other people like I was.
Yeah.
And if I can help save them time and tons of money and pain and relationships, divorce, all those things, if we can stop that through the consistent writing of a book that captures it, then that'll be really helpful. So that was kind of the big thing was when I was floating in a
That's
pool, I felt
awesome.
like this needed to be written because, and this is what people don't understand about weapons of mass deception until I usually explain it. This is not or even the military, right? Like we have huge suicide rates, and everyone always assumes it's like PTSD, um, some type of
Yeah.
combat experience, but there's plenty of things coming out showing that there's a lot of people who've never deployed, myself included, right?
Hmm.
There's all these different pieces where it's like, wait, how are these numbers still climbing so aggressively
Hmm.
when they didn't have that thing that society thought was required to be put in the suicide bucket for the military, which would be like a
Yeah.
combat experience, right? And
Yeah.
PTSD. Well, anyways, um, it's because it's not about combat, it's about culture, right? And Weapons of Mass Deception is a book. And when I knew I needed to write it, I knew I needed to write about the culture that we are in and how we can do a better job at creating the right culture that these weapons are not present and yet perform better and be more mission ready than ever for whatever's next. So yeah, that was kind of it.
Wow. That's big. That's awesome. And I didn't know that. It's just like this moment of peace that came to you. Did you, when that thought came to you, when you're in the pool, did you just accept that and like, yeah, cool, I'll write a book? Or what was
Yeah.
that like process like to start writing?
Yeah. Well, so like my faith is way important to me. It's everything, like Christ is my cornerstone. And a lot of who I've become is because I would pray out all the time, God, heal my heart. I said, I don't like my heart. My heart is hard to the world around me. Like, I don't get what's wrong with me. Why am I so agitated and angry and tense? And why is my home so stressful? Like,
Yeah.
it's something in me. I'm doing this to this place. And I remember just constantly saying, like, Lord, if Moses, or I would say Moses, if Pharaoh could harden his heart, would you soften mine? Right. I did that like all the time. It was a huge prayer of mine, thinking, man, maybe if I just had a softer heart. And I think what happens
Yeah.
is the military, as one example, as you know, I work with like companies like Salesforce and Zoom,
Hmm.
and government contracting companies and stuff like that. So it's not just military, but people who are highly driven, highly mission minded. Sometimes we can develop a thick skin, and it causes us to have a hardened heart. And I think you need the thick skin, but you also need to have a heart that can be compassionate, especially in the right places.
Hmm.
Um, so anyways, that's really key. And then when I knew that this was supposed to be written, I felt like I had like immediate clarity in 10 minutes of what needed to be written. It was
Wow.
wild. Like in 10 minutes of me floating in that pool, right? I remember my wife's uncle came down stairs. He's like, Adam, you look like you're just like in total bliss. And I'm like, I'm gonna write a book. He's like, you should. Like, um,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, so it was immediate acceptance because I'm totally dependent on God. And I really felt in prayer and in that moment, right? Sometimes we think prayer is like putting our hands together and just asking God for a bunch of things. I'm always in communication, right? Um,
Hmm.
I just believe that. And people don't need to believe that for me to like them, love them, be here for this stuff to work. But for me, that's my story.
Hmm.
And I felt that hey, this is bigger than me. It gives me too much peace to hear this type of message, which means it can't just come from me because even though I had some peace, this felt even better.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of clarity of exactly what needed to be written. And I remember thinking one of the core aspects of this was uh, I don't think I had the word weapon of mass deception yet, but it was something about recognizing that I wasn't willing to fight for me. I was, and most people like us aren't because we are willing to add more to hurt us more so other people have better lives. We will do
Yeah.
more to make other people's life easier. So we're the type of people, we meaning these mission-minded high performers, who will just keep stacking it up and not take care of ourselves and then we're not even pleasant to be around. Sure, we're doing a lot and we're achieving a lot, but are we really that great to be around? Are we really creating great atmospheres and cultures? And I realized I was not willing to fight for me. I just wasn't. I know that's weird to hear, but like whatever, we struggle. Who cares?
Hmm.
Life is hard. Oh well. I'm depressed. Yep. And one day I won't be if I keep working hard enough, right?
Hmm.
It was when I realized how Jess was exhausted. It was when I realized
Yeah.
that Addie and I were not connected as father and daughter to the way I would have imagined, to when I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute, there's something affecting me that's hurting them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm going to fight that thing.
Hmm.
I'm going to fight whatever that is because they matter too much and they deserve a better father and a better husband. And that gave me so like you can hear it just right there. You
Yeah.
could feel it. You could feel it when I said it. That's real. And that's
Yeah.
what we all need to remember is we're not willing to usually fight as hard as we need to for ourselves. But I fought against something that was hurting them through me. And I call that a weapon of mass deception. And I don't think I had the language then. I just knew that was what the book was going to be about.
Right. That's really cool. What did Jess say when you told her you were going to write a book?
Well, I think I didn't tell a lot of people at first. I might have like casually said it to Jess. But I didn't bring it up too much after that because
Okay.
I feel like sometimes what's hard is we say we're going to do something and we don't, and we beat ourselves
Yeah.
up. So I didn't tell too many people I was writing it. And until one day where I was like, hey, a book publisher reached out to me, and this is kind of happening. And she's like, wait, are you like almost done with the book? And I'm like, yeah, I am. But
Wow.
one of the weapons, so there's four, and it spells the word pact, P-A-C-T. Well, the second weapon, which is the A, is the altar of impact, right? And people who are mission minded and high performers, they will tend to maybe not even realize it, but sacrifice their family and their friends and those closest to them, even their team. Maybe they have a team of like 5 people, but they want a team of 5,000. So they only
Mhm.
focus on getting that 5,000, not taking care of the five, right? Will sacrifice these smaller groups or the closer people on the altar of impacting more people that will never
Yeah.
meet. And because I realized that before writing the book, you better believe the number one thing I wasn't going to do was I was not going to do that to them to write a book. I was not going to sacrifice them again and not be a present, father and husband. Um, and right then Aspen was born, so now I have two
Hmm.
daughters and my wife, and I just start writing. Like right that like the week Aspen's born is when I started writing.
Really?
And yeah, and who does that? That's when you're the most tired. But I felt like, hey, if it's supposed to be written, God will give me the energy to write it. And that's what happened. So
Yeah.
this book was written from 3 to 5 a.m. and 10 to midnight most nights. So point is,
Wow.
Jess was asleep. She had no clue the amount of progress I was making, you know?
Yeah. That's great. That's a pretty big surprise. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, you're like ready? Like your book is done? And it was a
Yeah.
total struggle writing it because this is super hard to talk about. Now I got to write about it and be limited to it. I made like some critical mistakes in this book, typos. People will crucify you for typos, but I don't care. And
I'm
the
so
wrong
sorry. I'm
references.
one of those people and I
Yes,
apologize. But
it's
also
hilarious.
those people are the ones that if you ever need a proofreader, I got your back.
Yeah. Well, I,
But
I know
yeah,
there's still
you
one or two in there. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't care.
you know what the quality of the writing is so good that even someone like me, I didn't notice the typos. It's okay.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I think I even
Um
talked about like the rotor blades spinning the wrong direction, which is just like, did this guy ever even fly helicopters? And I'm thinking, man, there's something that happens when you put yourself in the spotlight. And this is
yeah,
for all the listeners for a second. When you put yourself in the spotlight, it reveals the flaws.
yeah,
And if you want to avoid people seeing all your flaws and all the things you didn't do perfect, which by the way, they probably haven't even done any of the things, you know what I mean? Like there's people who criticize certain things I'll put out, but like they've never put anything out. So it's like, hey, at
yeah,
least something's out there. Like we're talking about helping
yeah.
people. And I'm willing to show a flaw from a spotlight. So yeah, that's the spotlight principle, which is, hey, attract it, but no, it's going to eventually show the things that were
Your
missing in
flaws.
there, and you're not, that doesn't reflect who you are. It's just that piece of work, and how terrible you did at getting your book together. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was great. But you're right. There's like it as you were writing this book, you kind of had to like tear yourself open to like put it all out there. And so having a couple mistakes, that's not that's completely understandable
Yeah.
and does not detract from the book at all. I mean, I don't fly helicopters, so I didn't notice anything wrong with any of your terminology, so you're good.
Hey, there you
And
go.
probably the majority of people that read your book don't fly helicopters, so you're fine.
Well, you know what though? This is crazy. It has come up actually just once where
Yeah?
someone was like, "Hey, the rotor blades do not spin that direction. I don't know how much of a pilot you really were." And
No.
I'm thinking, bro, I had so much I had to process and uh,
Yeah.
you know, struggle that I was uncovering. Maybe I wrote the wrong thing for a moment and then, we didn't catch it because like you're just trying to get this thing out. Like I just want to be
Yeah.
done writing this. Just so you know, I didn't want to like keep enjoying like this wasn't enjoyable to write. Like I didn't really have a lot of fun writing this book at all. My next book, whichever that ends up being, that I'm kind of processing in my mind, that is going to be a fun one. I'm going to love doing it. This one was just,
Okay.
it has to be done. Anyways, point is, someone did bring that up to me, and what it made me think of was like, wow. the old Adam would have been destroyed from that. And I don't even feel it. Not even do I not even feel it, Heather. I'm not even going to go back and change it, which I could easily do with my publisher. So far I have not
Hmm.
decided to just make that one little change, which probably could, whatever,
Yeah.
stop some ridicule in the future because it's not about what direction the rotors spin. It's
Yeah.
about you and your family and your relationships and your peace and your power and confidence. Like it's not about that. So I think what we do in this world is we've been taught to like fix every little thing. And I'm
Hmm.
pretty detail oriented, but there's parts where I'm like, you know what? I think that's fitting. I think it's actually fitting that there are even flaws in that because
Yeah.
it doesn't define what it can do. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a weird thing because like I would have probably destroyed myself in the past. Like that's the pressure of performance, right? The first weapon of
Hmm.
mass deception. The pressure of performance would have ripped me apart, making
Yeah.
me think like, dude, you told you weren't worthy of writing this. I told
Yeah.
you that uh, your story wasn't significant, right?
Mhm.
Exactly the thing I feared, by the way, and I think there's a lot for a lot of military people. We fear that our story isn't enough to share, right? Because I didn't have that
Right.
rank, I didn't have that title, I didn't have that deployment, I didn't have that type of deployment,
Hmm.
whatever it is. Oh, we were only guard, we were only reserves, we were only
Yeah.
that's that's what the pressure performance wants to do to you. And when you actually defeat it, it's just so freeing. So, anyways, I hope
I
people
can
reading
see it.
find that. Yeah.
I can see that in you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now with like I mentioned the impact that this book is making, you've been able to now go out and like share this book and share this message in different ways. And I'm super excited for you come here to our base here and share with soldiers and do some sessions. They're keeping you busy here. They're gonna have you do a lot, and I'm super excited about it. But can you tell me about what that's like? What kind of work are you doing now when you go out working with different companies as well, not just military, but what is it you're doing now?
Yeah, so it depends on what's right for the organization. Some groups it might be 40 minutes to an hour long, just talk with some Q&A. And so for that area, I'm usually focusing a lot on the fact that, man, we're all going to drift in life. Drift happens, drift is natural. And that is a huge piece to my message is the fact that
Hmm.
we were drifting an aircraft, doing a hoist rescue under night vision goggles at 2,300 hours, at night. Aircraft keeps drifting. I don't notice, and the crew chief calls it out. And instead of fixing it, and acknowledging it, actually, I just stay quiet and get in my own head. Then he calls it out again. Then I try to explain to him, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm drifting. I didn't mean to." Blah 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 blah. Right? All these excuses.
Hmm.
And we get into the situation where he's like, "Sir, no one cares. Just fix it now." Right? So I fix the aircraft, we get it back into the center of our area where we were doing the hover, pull it back up above the trees because we were originally surrounded, concealed by trees. So we were in a very high risk moment.
Hmm.
And, that's when I was taught that drift happens. Like you're going to drift. Like none of us care that you didn't do this thing perfect. So that's a huge, like presentation that we give to help. And when I say we, like there's other team members and stuff within my
Hmm.
company, Kingdom Operatives, to where we want to make sure that people just understand the basic principles of the 6 steps to correct your drift, right? So there's always that, but I think the sweet spot is really the Mission Ready Mastery Workshop, which is like a half a day to a full day workshop where we take that and then we build right off of it to say, where are you drifting and why are you drifting? And we get to
Hmm.
this, we get service members. That's usually for service members and families, and sometimes both. We get them to the point of saying, "I don't know why I'm drifting." By the way, that was me,
Yeah.
right? I don't know why
Yeah.
I'm so angry. I don't know why I'm not happy with my life, even though I have more than anything I could have dreamed. I have no clue what's wrong with me, right? And I think that's the really sad part. That's when we go, I can't figure it out. And that's when you see the suicides and the isolation and all these things happening. So,
Yeah.
anyways, you say I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, let's talk about it. like, what do you think it is? And in the workshop environment, people start to process. And by the way, this is very different than a traditional military training. So like
Hmm.
we're just getting like awesome feedback. And I promise I'm not an exaggerator. Like I've heard from our last workshop in Wyoming, 4 people said this is the best training I've ever had in the Army.
Wow.
And then they said how long they've been in, because that was one of the questions we asked them in the survey. And it was like 19 years, 22 years, 23 years
Wow.
in. And they said, this is the best. And I don't believe it's the best. I believe it's needed and it's been
Yeah.
missing. Therefore, it's standing out, right? It's a different
Hmm.
approach to this conversation, very different. So, long story short, so then eventually someone goes, hey, I'm drifting. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm angry. Yes, but why are you angry? I don't know why I'm so angry. Now we start to say, well, let's talk about the weapons of mass deception. Which one of these do you think is a root cause of the depth of your struggle? And how is that affecting
Hmm.
other people? And then we get people starting to talk to one another. And like, believe it or
Yeah.
not, I mean, people love that part too, to where now when they get each weapon explained to them, they're able to have conversations in a small group. And by the way, they actually want to have the conversations. Like all this energy kind of rises up in the room, and people start
Yeah.
to go, oh, let's talk about just the pressure performance, then just the alter of impact, then, and you just kind of keep going through those. And then
Hmm.
eventually we create our own counterattacks and plans of how we're going to react and the conversations we need to have. It's really powerful. So that's the Mission Ready Mastery
That's really
Workshop.
cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I feel like every base needs these trainings. What does the future look like for I don't know if you've even thought out this far. I haven't asked you this before, but what's the future look like for Kingdom Operative? Like what you're doing right now where you're going out and giving these sessions. What's the goal for it to continue on or grow?
Yeah, I think there's first and foremost, the message needs to be spread, right? And when I say the message, a message of healing, of hope, of restoring marriages,
Hmm.
restoring the heart of a warrior, a protector, a defender, to where they see the bigger picture for their life, both while they're in and when they get out, right? um, because the story continues, and I think what happens is people think it's over, and it's like, no, no, no. How do you integrate all of that into what's next and not limit yourself by the prior experiences or labels? So anyway, so that message needs to spread, and it's going to spread through people like yourself who are saying, that is me, and that is us, and that is for others. I say it all the time. This is not about a man named Adam. It is about a message, and that message is needed, and it's needed more than ever. And it's going to take years for this thing to continue to spread, and for organizations to say we want that to come into our group as well. We want to run these
Hmm.
trainings, whatever it is, because it's not you know this one book solves everyone's problems. Like we got to stay on it, and we got to
Yeah.
be really intentional with our culture. So, anyways, so messengers need to continue to do what they're doing, which, I told you kind of week over week, I'm having people raise their hand and say, how do I help with this?
Hmm.
Maybe I make a video for you on this, or maybe we buy books in bulk and we spread them across our organization. So I'm really excited for that. And that means there's going to be future team members who will be out there, boots on ground, giving this message where it's needed most. I think one thing that's really unique about Kingdom Operatives is I don't have any plans of prioritizing profit over people. What I mean by that is, I think a typical organization would, because we're a business, it's not a
Hmm.
nonprofit. I think you'd say, all right, well, whatever gets us the most success and the most people and the most money and the most impact. But like
Hmm.
altar of impact already helped me through this one. I get this part. Impact is happening through each individual conversation. And I would
Yeah.
rather go where we're celebrated, not tolerated. So for us, um, it's really important that we have the buy-in of a unit, couple unit leaders, whoever that is, to say, we are choosing to bring this in, not it's being forced upon us as another
Right.
mandated training. So that's Kingdom Operatives too, right? Is for people to say, we want this company and this organization to bring in training on really 3 aspects we focus on. The one you and I have talked about all this whole conversation is resiliency. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
also influence. What does it mean to be more influential and to be healed from all of this and to have a strong influence? And then the third piece is effectiveness, right? How do we help someone be more effective and get lasting results with themselves, their teams, their families, all of that. So there's multiple dimensions, but I really do feel emphasis on invitation compared to like it being forced upon someone. So I think that's what will be happening
Right.
is messengers will rise up. People will begin to say, we want that as well, and they'll choose it, and we'll make
Mm-hmm.
sure it's a good fit. And from there, we have our online community to help support people after those events.
Very cool. So tell me about the online community. How can people connect with you or follow you um, after reading your book or today? How can they go connect with you?
Yeah. Well, so I'm really active on LinkedIn, so that's Lead with Adam. If you look that up, I think that'll also get you my Instagram. So Instagram, sharing more about
Yeah.
life. LinkedIn, you're going to see a lot more of the business side of all this.
Hmm.
And then kingdomoperatives.com is our company website where you'll see you can put an application in to get a workshop or whatever you're interested in. If it's the talk I shared, Drift Happens, all those pieces. And then you
Hmm.
have skool.com. So SKOOL.
Okay.
School's just, like we've talked about before, it's a community platform hosting for communities. So school.com/kingdom operatives. Um,
And
and
I'll
if
have
they
the
type
link
that
in the
in,
show notes, so that'll be
okay,
good.
cool. Yeah, and that's when they can check out a little bit of what we do with our 4-week accelerators to help kick people off as they're going through a progression of transition. The weapons of mass deception are not, their origin is not only trauma, people always assume that, but I think they come from kind of four things. It's either trauma, timing, that's someone's timing of their life, transition and different points of
Mm,
transition. It could be recovering from loss. It could be, leaving the military. It could
mhm.
be, moving, right? Those are all big
Yeah.
transitions. And then the last one is training, right? You could be trained by culture and by society to experience a deep sense of these thoughts that you want to kind of, be a little more free of. So in there,
Yeah.
we work through all of that, right?
Okay.
And yeah, when you're in a transition point, check out school.com/kingdom operatives and feel free to join our monthly membership. And there's a lot of stuff in there. We got office hours, book club, the 4-week accelerator, and then group coaching.
Very cool. Um, okay, one last thing. Where can people get your book? Where can they find the book?
Yeah, I'd definitely just go to Amazon for that. Weapons of Mass Deception, The Silent Struggles Within High Performers, and then, or within every high performer, sorry. And the audiobook as well as on Audible.
Very cool. Okay, and the audiobook, it's you narrating, right? You're the voice.
Yeah, yeah, it
Even
is.
better.
That was not easy, but I recorded that whole audiobook. I don't think I've told you this in one day.
Oh
And
my
normally,
gosh.
normally those are like, yeah, people are like not surprised at them,
Yeah.
like
That's
because
amazing.
yeah, because it's just funny. Like when people get a feel for me, they're like, of course you did it
Yeah.
all in one day, and I'm like, dude, it was terrible. Like it was because we were only on site that one day to do it with the publisher, so it was like
Wow.
6
So you're just like,
a.m.
I'm just gonna get this
until
done.
yes, I think it was like 6 a.m. until like 8 p.m. You just talk and
Wow.
they edited, all my little mistakes out. Um, but yeah, we got it done. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for people to read it. I'm excited for more people to hear this message. And whether it's the book or any other way that they get to connect with you, I think they're going to get a lot of value out of that. Thank you so much for everything that you shared today, because I feel like I got a little mini session in Drift Happens and everything. I feel great, ready to go tackle life.
Let's go. That's awesome. Oh, I
Yes.
love that. Yeah, I don't want to forget to say there's a workbook too, Weapons of Mass Deception, Defeat the Weapons workbook that you find on Amazon. So if
Nice.
anyone's like,
Okay.
hey, I kind of like I don't have a community to process this, And that'd be nice if I did have a group. You could always start your own and then kind of everyone has the workbook and go through it, or you could work with your spouse. So this is,
Yeah.
like you're looking on video, this is like to help people process what all this means to them, find your
Hmm.
own meaning in this storyline, right?
Cool. So
So
that's the workbook one, the orange one, right? Oh, they're both orange.
oh,
Okay.
orange is the book, and then this is the workbook. And this is the
Okay.
redesign, this all used to be just a black and white book that
Yeah. I have the
would blend in
original.
the background. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. And that's pretty legit because we're not gonna put more of those out there. So I'm glad you have
Yeah.
that.
Man, that'll be worth a lot of money one day. So I'll need to get you to sign it so that it'll be worth even more.
Yes,
But
that's awesome.
very cool. Yes, I'll include the links for everything so people can go find you and go read the book because this is so valuable. Thank you, Adam. And I mean this, I will have you on again because I know there's so much more you have to share. And I want to hear from both you and your wife, Jess. Jess, I adore her. We got really close as well while the guys were in flight school. And so I'm excited to hear from both of you and what you're doing now. We'll get some
Yeah.
marriage advice from Adam and Jess.
I love that. The reason we can give any advice on a marriage is because it was absolutely in such turmoil. And now it's like the greatest thing. Like, the person who we used to think there's no way we could stay together. It's like now now I can't imagine life without you. Like we are
Yeah.
absolute best friends. My favorite person in the whole world is my wife, the same person 3 years ago that I looked at in the car and said, I don't like you. And she said, I don't like you either. Right. So little hook for
Yeah.
everyone for our
Yeah.
next time. But
It'll be a
like
really good one.
there are some things that happen that we share with
Wow.
other couples now as well that I think can improve their marriages pretty fast.
That's awesome. I can't wait. Thank you so, so much. I really, really, really do appreciate you sharing as much as you have.
No problem. We'll see you, Heather.
Yes. Bye, Adam. Thank you for joining me and getting to hear from Adam. I'm genuinely excited for you guys to go read his book, go listen to the information he has out there. I am hopeful that he will have a course on Skool that he was just sharing about, specifically for military spouses. So when that happens, I will absolutely share it with you guys so we can all get on there. If you'd like to hear more stories from military spouses, military members, veterans, friends, counselors, everything, subscribe, follow along, and listen to more episodes to come. Go follow me on Instagram to join our community where we encourage one another and share our stories with each other. And feel free to message me on there and tell me what you would like to hear about. I would love to hear ideas that you have for episodes or stories that you have to share. I want to hear your story or people that you would like to be interviewed on here. Send me all the messages. I can't wait. Thank you again for listening. This is Heather signing off. I'll catch you guys next time.